Hi, it's good to have you here again. Today we will look at your right as a tenant. Tenancy in Nigeria is more like a cat and dog affair, but this takes a positive twist once both parties are up to speed with their respective rights. So let's see how up to speed we are. Before talking on your right as a tenant, let's look at who a tenant is. Elementary, right? I agree with you. But please indulge me and let me assume that there is need to break it down. Who is a tenant? A tenant is a person who legally occupies land or a house that does not belong to him. I use the word legally and does not belong to him. How does that make sense? What qualifies you as a tenant who legally occupies a space not owned by you is the payment of rent and the consent of the owner. And rent is that money you pay to the owner of the land or property known as the landlord so that you can use his property for an agreed period of time. Is it only when you pay money that you can be a tenant? Of course not. Sometimes that may not be the case. You can become what is known as a tenant at will, where you stay in a property with the owner's permission without paying. As a tenant, what is your status? What are your rights? Yes, the property is not yours. You don't own the title, but does that render you helpless? No. The law makes provision for you to be safe, secured, and comfortable whenever you have the need to rent a property, whether for your business or residential purpose. Number one, you have the right to be issued a receipt, since it's the rent that you pay that qualifies you as a tenant. Your right to be issued a receipt by the landlord as evidence that yes, this is my house, but from the date on this receipt to so and so date on this receipt, the property is under your possession and authority should not be debated. But some of us don't take this right serious at all. Please note, in addition to serving as evidence of payment, this receipt also describes the property and the tenure of your tenancy. In fact, the law goes an extra mile of protecting you here, as there is a provision within the tenancy law for a sanction against the landlord for failure to issue you a receipt. Even if you made part payment, please collect your receipt. Number two, you have the right to a written agreement. You are also entitled to a written agreement capturing the rights and obligations, the terms and conditions to operate with during the pendency of the tenancy. Some of us see this as just a piece of paper and do not pay attention to it. Please do. First, you paid for it, so insist on value for money paid. And more importantly, it will affirm your rights when the need arises. Remember, written agreement carries more weight than oral agreement. Number three, the right to habitable or livable or acceptable property or land. The fact that you don't own a property doesn't condemn you to just any trash. It is your right to demand for a standard that is commensurate with the rent that you have paid or get reimbursed where you have to raise it to that standard. The right not to be thrown out of the house without proper notice. Here, the law makes provision for the procedure to employ when there is need for the landlord to repossess the tenanted property. Remember, the title of the land does not lie with you, it's still with the landlord, so he has the right to repossess. But before repossessing, there are procedures that he must follow. In fact, the landlords are not happy with this particular provision because they feel the tenants are overprotected at the expense of their rights to their return on investment. There are specific notices to be given depending on your nature or term of tenancy. The landlord cannot just wake up one morning and claim to repossess. Failure to adhere to these procedures will void the landlord's repossession. Number five, your right to peaceful enjoyment of the property. In fact, this right is why we are having this video today, as one of my clients has been a victim. The house is not yours, so does the landlord have unhindered access at all times? A resounding no. From the moment you pay your rent and the necessary or relevant document completed, the landlord, by law, is granting you the right to peaceful enjoyment of the property. What this means is that the house belongs to you, its safety is your responsibility, you choose who enter and who shouldn't, including the landlord. The landlord, for the purpose of maintenance, yes, enters with your permission already spelled out in the agreement. Any emergency has to be properly communicated before entry. Anything otherwise can be taken as trespass. Number 6, you have the right to renew subject to the terms in the agreement. So it is wrong for you to just wake up one morning and see a new face claiming to be your landlord. Number 7, you also have the right of first refusal should the landlord want to sell while you are still in possession. Finally, number 8, you have the right to rent a house anywhere in Nigeria. You're a Nigerian after all. So don't just rent that house. Rent with power. Know your rights. I hope this has been helpful. If so, please don't leave without hitting that subscribe button, liking this video, commenting and sharing. If you want to hear more, please turn on that notification bell so that when next we upload, you will be the first to know. Until then, remain blessed.